Hey, just a quick note to say thank you for joining me on this episode. If this is your first time or you're a regular listener, please take a minute and rate the show on your chosen platform. A short review helps every show to be more visible to new listeners and provides them with value. So, thank you for being here and for helping out. Thank you. Hey, welcome to this bonus episode of the Daring Creativity Podcast. This is where I revisit the interview published earlier in the week, giving me an opportunity to zoom in on a few standout moments for extra value and meaning. Taking time to digest the goodness my guests share with me every single week. And this week I released a conversation with Paula Zuccotti, a multi-hyphenated creative and known for her project Everything We Touch. And in this bonus episode, I'll pick out a few moments to talk about a project which is utterly fascinating. So let's talk about the fact that what she describes is that everything we touch is like an X-ray of our life.
So the idea is, can we tell someone's life by just looking at all the objects that they touch in one day? And what will that picture tell me about them and about us and about our society? And it is so revealing. And because in this world where we associate ourselves to a selfie or a curated side of our personality, where you may say, oh, Paula, what are your favorite 5 things? And I will come with my best t-shirt, record player, my best book, and my jewelry. I don't know. But everything we touch is like an X-ray of your life because it is everything you do in 24 hours. So while you may have your favorite t-shirt on, you also touch a Tupperware and cling film and house keys and medicine and a bottle of wine. And it's kind of like everything that you need in a day to live, survive, have fun, express yourself, cope, work out. It's just a really good unit, if I may say. I had to come up with a unit in order to tell these life experiences.
I wanted to know through our conversations a lot more about this project because it's fascinating. Paula spent the last more than 10 years photographing people around the world with objects she collects from their one day. I really wanted to know, how does it work? And it's interesting that they select a day in life and then collect all the items that the person touches from the morning to the evening. And in a way, when we think about how we curate our social media presence or our digital presence, our digital footprint, our LinkedIn profile, sometimes we actually curate conversations when you think about it because we want to come across in a certain way. You don't always curate what you touch in every single day because we got our habits, right? We wake up, we reach for our phone. If you got the common phone addiction, then potentially it's water, it's breakfast, it's coffee or a coffee grinder, car keys. These are not necessarily identity choices. They are pure necessity, pure habits, pure life happenings. So when someone asks you to describe yourself, you might say that you're a reader or an athlete, but Paula captures the crumple tissues, the anxiety medications, the third cup of coffee, the Netflix remote used for 4 hours straight. She's found a way to photograph our actual lives instead of aspirational ones, and that's the X-ray of our lives. So it's kind of revolutionary because the gap between who we think we are and who we actually are has never been wider. We present ourselves on the outside, but who we are is actually someone different. So there's no filters, it's just a human truth. In the second quote, Paula talks about dream objects.
Time to surround ourselves with dream objects where we project that idea that we have of ourselves. It could be the books that we haven't read, or the guitar that we haven't learned to play, or the photo camera that we haven't picked, or things that you think that one day you'll use them. And sometimes we create an image in our minds of who we are. And sometimes when you have to limit that to actually what you really use, it's like when people say, you are what you eat or you are what you do. So it projects a mirror back to you of what is it that you actually really do. So I think like by having that as a framework, if you are not a guitar player, it's rare that your guitar will be there unless you are the type of person that in the evening just, grabs the guitar and plays a little bit.
I love how Paula talks about new narratives found in the photos because, yes, she's right. She calls it dream objects, but I guess it still goes back to curated objects. Because, yes, we've got guitars at home, but we not always play. We've got books at home we've never read, and we've got objects in home that we would love to have, but they are not necessarily part of our identity. Because we buy the version of ourselves we want to become, but we're not there yet. We are living with artifacts that are best intentions. That guitar is gathering dust. Those ambitious books are still on the shelf. But what's beautiful about Paula's observation, she's not judging this. She's recognizing that it's fundamentally human. We need dream objects because they represent hope and possibility. And what's brilliant about her project is how it distinguishes between objects we want to be versus who we actually are. And that goes back to the previous quote about this is not curated life, it's a necessity. In her images, you can only include what you touch in one day, and Dream Guitar doesn't often make the cut, but the coffee machine does. Paula's showing us that our relationship with objects is deeply emotional. We don't just use things, we project onto them, we hope for them, we tell our stories about who we might become. The third standout moment is about being shy and observant.
When I came to England, I came to the master's degree. And again, I was like from another world. I've always felt, and I'm always like having a start at places where I'm like shy and observant. And I try to figure out my voice in that new place. And I don't walk into a new place loud, if you know what I mean. I'm kind of like trying to find how do I and my views and myself connect to that. What's the best intersection between myself and that place?
Me and Paul have in common the fact that we both came to England around the same time, about 25 years ago. And there is something really exciting to have that lens of an outsider looking in, because you want to integrate. You don't want to diminish your uniqueness, your personality, but you also don't want to stand out too much. And I like that Paula says that she was shy and observant, because that's a way of my personal experience. Because being shy and observant can also give you the power of actually observe the situation. She's describing her secret superpower of genuinely curious people. They don't rush to be heard. Let's think about it. We live in a culture that rewards the loudest voice in a room. If you follow my Instagram stories, I talked about a quote I heard recently, which is, has the dumb got dumber, has the dumb got louder? And I think we can be safe to say there's a truth in both. But the louder has been definitely projected through the social media channels, through media. And not needing to be the loudest voice in the room actually gives us time to listen. In Paula's moment, she talks about the incredible power of being the quiet observer first. She moved from Argentina to London, moved from industrial design to ethnography, from being an employee to entrepreneur. Each time, instead of charging in to prove herself, she watched, listened, and absorbed. And this isn't shyness as weakness, it's a strategic curiosity. Paula's entire career is built on observation. None of that would have been possible if she had been too busy talking to notice what was actually happening, if you're paying attention. And that leads us to the last standout moment. Talks about everyone being a story.
I don't know if it's one thing, but it's everything. It's just seeing how other people live, and not in a nosy way, in a kind of humble way that no life is better than others. Everyone is a story. And just to see, just to find stories in the everyday, in people's lives. And what surprised me is like when I look at a photo and I find new narratives, new ways of looking at it. So I run filters in my head, and I may find that objects connect, or that there is a pattern, or I get excited by those things. I get excited by playing, saying, oh, what happens if I remove the middle line? Will that person still be showing the story or not? I get fascinated by asking questions that I'm not allowed to ask in any other way.
Paula's found something that makes us equal. We all live a life, and every life is complete. It's a fascinating story. And the key word is humbly. Paula's not studying people like specimen, and let's be honest, she's studying their lives and stories. But she's approaching each person's life as a student would approach a teacher. The geisha, the cowboy, the 2-year-old, they all know something about being human that Paula didn't know about them before she met them. They figured out their own way of moving through the world, their own system of making meaning. This perspective can be seen as radical because we're obsessed with optimization, finding the right way to live. But as Paula's work suggests, something different. There are as many valid ways to live as there are people living. And maybe that's exactly what we need to hear right now. My conversation with Paula was full of interesting insights, and I think we managed to join a few dots that she didn't think about before or haven't thought of for a while. But as she quite beautifully said in the standout moment, everyone is a story. And I invite you to listen to my conversation with Paula because it's packed to the brim with amazing insights about human stories. And have a think. What is it that everything you touch every day? Thanks for listening to this bonus episode, and I'll see you next week on the next one. Cheers. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more accessible resources to help you discover your daring creativity, you can pick up one of my books on themes of mindful creativity, creative business, branding, and graphic design. Every physical book purchase comes with a free digital bundle including an ebook and audiobook to make the content accessible wherever you are and whatever you do. To get 10% of your order, visit novemberuniverse.co.uk and use the code podcast. Have a look around and start living daringly.